Good evening, everybody. Today, we're going to be sharing the results of a recent study that has been ongoing at the University of West Georgia in our lab on exceptional experiences. The study explores interoception, mindfulness, and how they relate to different exceptional experiences, and takes the form of a convergent mixed method study, which implies that we use both qualitative and quantitative measures in the same set of data. This allows for greater insights into the experiences and a more holistic understanding of exceptional experiences generally. So what we're going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about interoception and why interoception is important or potentially important for exceptional experiences. Then my colleague is going to talk about mindfulness, and we're going to go on and talk about the study itself, the results, and the implications of that study. Of course, we need to begin by defining what exceptional experiences are as well before we move to our correlates of exceptional experiences. And this is probably very familiar to a lot of you, but just in case, exceptional or anomalous experiences are a range of unusual but not uncommon ways of experiencing the world. And these include experiences that are often labeled as paranormal. These experiences occur across all cultures and are found across history as well. And they tend to occur in altered states of consciousness and are very much part of the human experience. So we're taking the approach that these experiences happen. We adopt a more phenomenological perspective, and we are exploring these experiences in alignment with Belz and Fach's model of exceptional experiences. So what they have noticed in their research is that there are different ways of experiencing anomalies. And these are 4 different categories of ways of experiencing. These refer to anomalies in the self model, so experiences that happen inside, experiences that occur outside of the self in the world model and on the body, experiences that are dissociative, that include things like out-of-body experiences, things like that, and also coincidence phenomena that are also known as anomalous ways of attaining knowledge. So these, as you can see on the slide, include all of the paranormal experiences as are studied by parapsychologists, and you can see how they fall into the different categories. So this is a very useful way of understanding exceptional experiences, but interestingly, there's very little research into the correlates of the different ways of experiencing exceptional phenomena. And that's one of the purposes of our study, to really sort of explore how interoception and mindfulness might relate to the different ways of experiencing anomalies. So you may or may not have heard of interoception. Interoception is actually being increasingly studied in recent years, and it refers to the extent to which a person is listening to the body within the current psychosocial context, including emotion processing. It is measured according to how people are able to listen to the heart, and that's an objective measure of interoception. It's also measured subjectively in terms of how people feel that they are connected to the body, and that's the approach we take in our study. A third way of understanding interoception is metacognitive, which combines objective and subjective ways of looking at this. Interoception seems to be intriguing for understanding the sense of self and consciousness itself. And for that reason, we felt it might have some relevance to understanding exceptional experiences, which are anomalies of consciousness. So in terms of how interoception relates to exceptional experiences, there is some evidence in the existing literature. If we look back through the literature, we find that somatic focus, so sort of paying attention to the body, has been associated with haunting type experiences, and that's less healthy. We also looked at interoception in one of our recent studies on ghost experiences and found that several subscales of interoception did play a role in subjective ghost experiences when they were labeled paranormally, which is interesting. Research in parapsychology generally supports stronger psi effects too, for body-based and other implicit measures of psi. So we thought this is an interesting variable, and we decided to look at this with regard to how it might relate, or how the different subscales of interoception might relate to the different forms of exceptional experiences. So I'm now going to pass over to my colleague, who is going to talk about mindfulness and exceptional experiences.
I am David Salisbury Brown Mitchell, and as was just said, I'm talking about mindfulness. So mindfulness as defined by the literature, at least some of the literature, is the awareness that emerges through paying attention on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally to the unfolding of experience moment by moment. And for the purposes of our study, we are looking at dispositional as opposed to state mindfulness. Mindfulness is generally cultivated by things like meditative practice, and it relates to flexible attentional functions that include things like selection and control, which modulate incoming information. So meditation and meditative experiences have been found in the literature to be associated with subjective reports of ESP and also with ESP performance. Mindfulness may be important for understanding these exceptional experiences, for example, given its association with things like non-judgmental attention to both our inner and outer experience. And one of the ways that mindfulness has been defined in the literature operationally has been through looking at 5 facets, which are observing, describing, acting with awareness, non-judging of inner experience, and non-reacting to inner experience. So some of the aims and hypotheses that we decided to address in our study are as follows. We thought that interoception subscales would correlate with scores on the exceptional experiences subscales, that mindfulness subscales would correlate with scores on the exceptional experience subscales, that mindfulness and interoception would correlate with one another, and also that qualitative patterns would be explored through open-ended responses. And we were looking at using two-tailed analyses, tests for each of these. So regarding our methodology, a bit more specifically, you're looking at using a mixed methods study, a convergent mixed methods study. And we placed a survey in Qualtrics and distributed it to UWG, University of West Georgia psychology students. Our total sample size after we cleaned our data set was 14 males and 38 females. And these are the measures that we used, which deal with the variables of interest. So the 5-facet mindfulness questionnaire, or FFMQ, by Baer and colleagues, has those 5 facets that we discussed: the observing, the describing, acting with awareness, non-judging of inner experience, and non-reacting to that inner experience. The MAIA, or multidimensional assessment of interoceptive awareness by Melling, has 8 subscales, which we'll address a bit more soon. But those subscales are noticing, not distracting, not worrying, attention regulation, emotional awareness, self-regulation, body listening, and trusting. And finally, the page R measure that we use to examine exceptional experiences has 4 subscales in it, and those were addressed earlier by my colleague, but they relate to exceptional phenomena in the environment, to exceptional internal perceptions, to exceptional forms of knowledge, coincidence phenomena, and exceptional physical experiences, or dissociative phenomena. And we included open-ended sections following each of those 4 subscales for the page R. So a bit about some of the correlational analyses that we did. What we see here are correlations for interoception and exceptional experiences. And, for interoception and exceptional experiences. And what we have are that different interoception subscales correlated in different ways with different forms of exceptional experiences. And emotional awareness and body listening correlated with all exceptional experiences subscales. For mindfulness and interoception, we have, of the 5 facets, the observed facet of mindfulness was the only one that was correlated with all 4 exceptional experience subscales. And last but not least, some mindfulness facets correlated with interoception subscales. So as we see here, the final 4 rows at the bottom of the slide describe, act with awareness, non-judgment, and non-reaction are the 4 facets of mindfulness that deal less with observing and more with things like executive functioning. And so some mindfulness facets did correlate with these interoception subscales, but we see in general that we have moderate to strong correlations throughout. Thank you. I'm passing it back to my colleague.
My name is Maya Baumeister, and I'll be presenting about the qualitative methods and results of this study, namely the phenomenological thematic analysis, which I'll be referring to as the PTA for brevity's sake, because it's certainly a mouthful. So phenomenology aims to describe the phenomena as closely to the firsthand account as possible in order to get at the essence of that lived experience. And so we thought that this approach would pair well with the scope of this study and chose a phenomenological lens through which to pursue the thematic analysis. Now, the process of the thematic analysis, the PTA, involves pulling written data from the page-R measure for the 4 kinds of EXE, or exceptional experiences that we touched on earlier. Then involved reading the data multiple times to familiarize myself with the content. First, just reading with an open mind, not trying to analyze or categorize yet, but simply familiarize myself. Then during the following readings, I began to look for patterns within the data and extracted meaningful language units, which included phrases or words for each experience, and the themes began to emerge. And finally, I organized the meaning units into themes that encompassed the essence of each exceptional experience according to the data we received. So starting with exceptional experience within the environment. Quantitatively, we found that these experiences correlated with the MAIA categories of emotional regulation and body listening, and from the FFMQ, the observe. And quantitatively, the themes that emerged within these experiences were the experience of witnessing material malfunctions. So this could come in the form of unexplained mechanical malfunctions, lights turning on and off by themselves at unusual times, or books falling off the shelf, or shattering of glass that's happening seems to happen by no apparent reason. Next, there is this experience of attributing intentionality. So personifying the phenomenon as some sort of outward entity with perceived agency. And lastly here, the experience of somatic reactions and evasive sensorial stimulation, such as physiological arousal, shown by the heart racing, or a sense of unnatural panic during these experiences. Next, we'll talk about the internal exceptional experiences. And so we found correlations with the MAIA categories of noticing, attention regulation, emotional awareness, self-regulation, body listening. So that's pretty much all the categories, which is interesting. And with the FFMQ, we found correlations with the observe subscale. Now, qualitatively, 3 themes stood out here with these experiences, including the experience of a felt sense of safety and danger, and being able to discern between stimuli that were associated with safety versus felt dangerous. Next, there were experiences of shifts in conscious awareness, so experiences that transcend beyond this physical plane of reality. And third, we had quite a few healers take the survey, and so we found that there is this theme of healer's intuition. So being able to sense the presence of something within someone else's body, perhaps that should not be there, and then thus is what needs to be healed. Our third category here is exceptional forms of knowing or knowledge and coincidence phenomena. So this was shown to be correlated with the MAIA scales of noticing, not worrying, attention regulation, emotional awareness, self-regulation, and body awareness. And again, for the FFMQ, it was correlated with the observed subscale. Now, the themes that emerged here, we have 4 different ones actually. So knowing as sensory information. So the experience of receiving knowledge through sensory information in which one derives meaning. Knowing as a call to action, a sense of direction from something other than one's own thoughts. Knowing as remembering, so anomalous memories, including past lives and information about places which they had never been to, in addition to precognitive dreams or dreams of future events that later took place. And lastly here, knowing as communication. So experiences of receiving messages and the interpretation of a perceived external source from which these messages came. And lastly here, we'll be talking about the physical exceptional experiences or dissociative phenomena. And we found correlations here with the MAIA scales of emotional awareness and body listening, in addition to the FFMQ subscale of observe. The themes that emerged for these experiences included the experience of being touched by an invisible presence or a disembodied entity, the experience of paralysis or immobilization of the body while the mind remained alert and aware of the experience. And lastly, the experience of separating from the body or physical perception of leaving the body. So I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Simmonds-Moore to tell us a little bit about the take-home messages.
So, important take-homes for exception experiences, mindfulness, and the body. Well, the qualitative patterns that Maya just described really do illustrate and allow greater insights into the quantitative patterns that David described earlier. It certainly seems that there are different ways in which one listens to the body and makes meaning from for the different types of exceptional experiences. It's intriguing to note that 2 of the interoception subscales play a role in all forms of exceptional experiences. And these are particularly strong in the knowledge and the internal forms of exceptional experiences, which is intriguing. Additional aspects are also implicated in the internal and knowledge-based forms of exceptional experiences. So they are involved, the body is involved differently in different forms of exceptional experiences. Definitions for the relevant subscales are included on the slide, so you can have a look at those, but pay particular attention to emotional awareness and body listening that were the ones that were correlated with all of the forms of exceptional experiences. These and the qualitative patterns suggest strongly that exceptional experiences are associated with clear awareness and discernment of emotional and body-based information. And these support the idea that exceptional experiences derive from wisdom from the body and sense-making in terms of strange experiences that are then being processed and given meaning. These include attributions to external sources or links across time, so cognitive links across time, as Maya noted, in terms of past life experiences and precognitions. For the internal and knowledge-based forms, the information is attended to. And for knowledge-based phenomena, this is happening without worry or distress. So all of these implicate that exception experiences are very, very healthy. In terms of mindfulness, this plays less of a direct role in exceptional experiences, with only one facet directly correlated with exceptional experiences, and that facet is mindful observing. So this is defined as observing, noticing, or attending to sensations or perceptions, thoughts, and feelings. So it's a direct noticing. So it may be that pure awareness and curiosity may open the window onto direct internal or external experiences, including facets of interoception and leading to exceptional phenomena. It may well be foundational to the other 4 facets. It's not clear at the moment. We need to do further research on that. Observing may relate also to exceptional experiences via its correlations with interoception. So we need to sort of do some unpacking with that as we move forward with this study and future studies that replicate. It has been noted that the observing facet does not consistently correlate with other facets and may well measure something else, but it's still interesting and relevant that attention is implicated in exceptional experiences. In terms of the general implications from our research and how we move this forward, well, although this is only a pilot study with a limited sample size, we do have some very interesting patterns, I think. It does seem to be the case that in our sample, the extent to which people listen to the body and make sense of what it is telling them cognitively plays a role in exceptional experiences. Prior research indicates that interoception is involved in making inferences from the signals of the body that lead to emotional states, and that these experiences have different layers of representation that lead to sort of a more conscious layer at the top. Our study suggests that tangible, unusual sensations, emotions, and experiences that derive from the body may well contribute to exceptional experiences, and this is intriguing to us. In addition, one facet of mindfulness, mindful observing, plays a role in all forms of exceptional experiences, which implies some role for allocating attention in these experiences. In terms of future research, we will seek to replicate this study generally with a larger sample size. So our sample size ended up being only about 50, but it's still interesting and shows some really good patterns, I think. We also want to explore how interoception relates to psi performance, and we plan on including interoception in a future study on ESP in a float tank. We are also interested in looking at how interoceptive accuracy relates to both subjective experiences and psi performance, as well as the subjective measure that we used here. Thank you very much for your attention. We have a reference sheet here, which is quite busy, but I can make this available to you if you are interested. And we are all available now to answer questions. Thank you for your attention.